Oh yeah, thank you, brother, for joining me on this episode of my Elite Trading podcast. And as I mentioned, so this is a platform where I'm gonna give people like us who are up and coming a voice on sharing our story, our journey, our experience, and why not give some tips and advice. So for the people who are
Honored to
watching,
be here, man.
oh yeah, thank you. So for the people who are watching, would you just please let them know who you are, how long you have been trading for, where do you live, and what instrument of the market you trade?
Yeah, of course, man. My name is Jaleel Wardak. I've been trading for officially or unofficially for about 2 years now. Was introduced into trading back in 2019, but I mainly trade futures. To be specific, I trade the Nasdaq. It's
Okay,
kind of my bread and butter.
right.
But yeah, man.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's actually fun because I basically got introduced into trading right around 2018, and then
Hmm.
around 2019, that's when I actually bought my very first course and I became very serious about day trading.
Oh,
So
wow.
what got you into trading in the first place? So I know you mentioned you got introduced to trading in 2019, but what
Yeah.
drew your very like attention into
Yeah.
pursuing this?
For sure, man. Yeah. So I initially got introduced into trading, like I said, back in 2019. I was at college. I was at University of Washington at the time, and I knew that school wasn't for me. I come from an immigrant background and everything, so school is definitely held as a priority, as you probably may know,
Most
in an
definitely.
immigrant household. I'm sure we can relate to each other on that one. But I more so went to college initially just to, kind of say that, hey, I tried it to my parents and whatnot, but I always knew in the back of my head that I was destined for more just beyond college.
Right.
I never really wanted to work for someone for the rest of my life or really go down that avenue of traditional schooling. I always saw it as something that was outdated. I
Mhm.
mean, the system itself hasn't changed for hundreds of years now.
Right.
And, I'm not saying that people can't find their own form of success throughout that. But just for me personally, that was something that, I didn't really want. I wanted something beyond just that. But long story short, I got introduced into trading through a pyramid scheme called IML. I'm sure a lot of people are aware of that. So it's basically one of those pyramid schemes where they have some sort of upfront product or service that you're able to capitalize money off of. Some of them are e-commerce, some of them are trading.
Mhm.
There's a whole bunch of different examples out there. But for this one in specific, IML, it was trading, and so they were trying to teach us how to trade, but with a whole bunch of, random nonsense like indicators and all this kind of stuff. And we're trying to shift our focus more to recruiting people to
Right.
come on to pay that $250 fee. So you could have, a whole bunch of people under you that are paying a $200 or $250 subscription, and you could get paid off of that. So I basically got introduced into trading crypto and Forex back then, completely dropped it. And then for the next couple of years, I actually met a mutual friend of ours who was in real estate and, got into the real estate game for about 4 years, 4.5 years, did that, and then kind of fell out of touch with that. And then as of 2 years ago, I rediscovered trading. And that was a really interesting journey in itself. I was actually at my barber's house at the time. He was giving me a haircut,
Right.
and he was like, "Yo, bro, look, I'm on this demo account. I'm floating $3,000 on gold." And it was MT4. I don't know if you've ever traded Forex, but the broker or the platform that you would use to execute those trades was MetaTrader 4, MetaTrader 5 now. And bro, it just brought back a whole bunch of flashbacks. And I went through my camera roll and I found all these old screenshots of, some trades I was in. I had no idea what I was doing back
Right.
then whatsoever, but it just kind of rediscovered or reignited that flame in terms of trading. And so I started getting curious, just like with anything else, it all starts with curiosity. And, I started doing some research into it and opened up a demo account, started trading Forex from there, and opened up a live account. And I remember like within those first, I think it was like around late spring, mid fall, maybe, I started, trading that live account, and I flipped like $100 into $400.
Oh, that's
And I
cool.
was like, dude, yeah, I was like, dude, like, this is something. And I hit, I withdrew that $300 profit that I made, hit my bank account, and I was like, dude, this is something that I definitely could do. And
Right.
then from there, it's just a snowball effect.
Right. So did you switch from Forex to futures at that time?
No, so I actually switched from Forex to futures in July. So basically, I got funded, or I passed the funded account evaluation. There's two phases typically, or 2 to 3 phases with Forex, with the majority of these funded accounts. And so I passed 2 phases after blowing multiple accounts and whatnot. Finally got to that stage where I passed those 2 phases. And then they said, okay, we're going to reach out to you within 2 to 3 days with your account credentials and everything of that sort. So I was like, okay, 2, 3 days go by. Don't hear nothing from them. I send an email over to their support team. They reply to me, okay, yeah, we're just backed up. We're gonna be getting back to you and stuff. And this is a pretty renowned prop firm out
Right.
there. They're based out of Dubai, like ton of users, everything like that. And then another 2 to 3 days go by. I send them another email. I'm like, hey, is there any sort of update? Same response. Another 2 days go by. At this point, it's like 7 days, about 7, 8 days or so, and I finally get an email from them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're actually banning you from our platform. We're under the suspicion that you're using account management services." Basically, hinting that they're thinking that I was using an AI bot, or had paid someone to do it, like my IP address was switched or anything like that. But my IP address has been the same. I trade from home, trade
Mhm.
on the same laptop, same Wi-Fi network, everything of that sort. And so I was like, bro, this is insane. And so I started doing some research. And at the time too, like a month or two prior to that, I had a good friend of mine by the name of Hassan. If he's watching this, bro, shout out to you, man. But he had always told me, like, bro, look into futures, look into futures, look into futures. It's US based and regulated, like, it's really legit, everything like that. But I come from trading Forex, and with trading Forex, for an example, 100K prop firm account is about $400, give or take, depending on what prop firm you're with. And with futures, a 50K or even 100K prop firm account is 50 to $100. I'm like, bro, this doesn't make any sort of sense. I just got scammed by this Forex fund or prop firm and everything like that. I don't know how this is really going to work out. But then that same day that they sent me that email, I was in a situation where I'm like, dude, I need to get this funded account. I need to start making this money from trading. I'm like months and months and months into this. And like, bro, I haven't seen nothing. And so that same day, I hit up my friend Hassan. I hit up one of my other friends, Alfonso, who actually used to trade Forex with me, now trades futures now. And I was just like, what's going on? You guys trade futures? Like, how are you guys liking it? How does it work? Everything of that sort. That same day, I went to Top Step, bought a 50K account. Next morning, hit my profit target of what I needed to hit for that day. Because, I mean, every prop firm is different. Some have
Right.
1 day pass.
Mhm.
Some of them have, a consistency rule. So with Top Step in specific, you can't make that full profit target in 1 day. You can only make 50% of it. But that next same day, I'll never forget. I took an ES long, and I hit my $1,500 profit target for that day. And I was like, dude, this is insane. It's
Wow.
it's like the same thing, same strategy, everything like that. But yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, with those funded accounts, do you set your own profit target, or do they set it for you?
No, so there's a set profit target that you need in order to pass the funded account. So majority of futures prop firm accounts, it's for a 50K account, it's typically 3,000. And so, like I was saying, with Top Step in specific, they don't allow you to have a 1 day pass. The most you can make in 1 day is 50% of that target.
I
So in
see.
this case, it was $1,500.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah. So just to help people watching, so if someone is getting started today, for example,
yeah,
and they are interested into getting into future trading, what are
right,
the steps they need to take from
right.
going
So
from not doing anything to getting in funded account?
that's a great question. There's a bunch of different ways that you can go about it. In specific, I think the best way to really go about anything in general is investing in yourself, right?
Right.
A lot of people that are starting out in any sort of business or want to be an entrepreneur, want to get into any sort of field of making money, a misconception that they have is, oh, I need to hoard this money. I need to stack my few hundred to thousands of dollars that I have right now and keep it tucked away. But I actually think the opposite. I think that the more that you invest in yourself, the more that you're going to get out. Just like any other business, as you know, Harvey, or
Right.
Art, what you get in is what you're going to get out. So I would highly recommend, if you don't have anything right now at all, I would go on YouTube and literally just type in futures trading and try to find some videos that resonate with you. Try to find someone that is a mentor and stick to one strategy. If you do have some money to invest in yourself, 100% the game changer that made a difference for me was investing in my education. There's so many good mentors out there, and there's so many bad mentors out there.
Right,
You definitely need to do your best and use your judgment, or ask around others, who you feel as if would be a good mentor for you to actually, get that learning out of the way. Um,
right,
you know, I'm not saying you can't make it without a mentor. You definitely can. But obviously, you're going to go through a lot more pain and a lot more time trying to really hunker down and learn that knowledge. Whereas if you were to invest in yourself, you would essentially be putting yourself on a fast track.
right, right. This
Yeah.
is yeah, this is actually very interesting because I am a living experience of that mistake. So I got introduced to trading back in 2018 through a friend of mine. So long story short, I knew about the stock market before I moved to America because I was usually watching TV in the morning with my dad. He was watching news every morning before he goes to work. So I would have to sit with him for him to give me instructions on what I need to do for the day. But the most interesting thing was after the news segment on Euronews, that was the channel that we used to watch news on, there
Hmm.
was the sport segment. So I was always waiting for that segment to know what was going on in world football and why not. But
Soccer games.
yeah, yeah. And between those two segments, there was market. Basically, it was like stock exchange. And
Yeah.
I would ask my dad, "Oh, what's that?" And he would tell me, "That's where all the money is, right?" And he was telling me that every single day. So fast forward, I moved to the US and I met this friend, Hillary, at college.
Yeah.
Um, he was trading Forex. I never knew about it. So one day we had about 4 hours between the classes, and he was like, "Oh, instead of you going home, why don't you come to my crib? It's closer to school, so that way we can take a nap or rest, whatever, for 2, 3 hours and come back to school." So we got to his apartment, and then I saw chart on his laptop. Then I had flashbacks about what I was seeing on TV about 3, 4, 5 years ago. I didn't say anything to Hillary. Came home, did some research. I went on YouTube. I found people doing trading and stuff, and I came across one penny stock video of a guy who turned $12,000 into 1.6 million. I was like, oh shit, I could do it. And instead of me investing into my education, I went in and I
Straight to the market.
straight to the market. I opened up a trading account. Within a week, I got my account activated. And at the time, luckily, I didn't have enough money, so I had about $1,800
Oh,
and
wow.
put it into the market. And my very first, I would say 2 or 3 trades, I had a beginner like, so I was great, and I had no
Oh,
idea what
man.
I was doing. Absolutely no idea. I made about $20 average on each trade. Wasn't that much, like 50
Yeah.
bucks profit. I was like, okay, I could do it. Next thing you know, the week that followed, I blew the entire account. I went to zero. Not really zero because the minimum account requirement was $500. So I went
Right.
below $500, so I couldn't trade anymore. And I was stuck. So from 2018 to 2019, I couldn't really do anything because in my mind, I wanted to get money to put into the trading account for me to be trading and learning how to
Right.
trade. Where if I could focus more, as you said, invest into my education, YouTube is free. So I could just maybe spend time on YouTube learning from mentors, and that could maybe fast track my experience. But it took me
100%.
like a long time before I could get into a course, learn, and then become profitable. So
Yep.
how long did it take you to become profitable?
Bro, in reality, I didn't become profitable until literally probably 6 months ago. So a year and a half in specific
Right.
from when I initially took upon the journey of really hunkering down and trying to learn how to trade until the point that I'm at right now, about 6 months ago. And that was a really tough time, as you can imagine. I mean, I'm very blessed in the sense of, I really did have that fast track. A lot of people it takes them years,
Right, right.
3, 4, 5,
To
sometimes
do
even
5 years.
6 years. Yeah, man. But I really, I'm a very observative person. I see people, where they make mistakes, where they lack and I try to fill those voids within myself or try not to make those mistakes. And so I was looking, I was very heavily down the rabbit hole in terms of trading, all different, types of mentors and everything like that. And I was really listening to what they were saying in terms of, what mistakes are very common within people that are getting into trading and, how to prevent certain things from happening, like unprofitability for a long time and what to do. And really, I genuinely believe that to become profitable, it's three different things. It's your edge in the market for one, or strategy. Number two is going to be your psychology. And the last one is really just going to be your risk management. And
Right.
if you only have two of these things, you're not going to be profitable. If you have one of these things, you're not going to be profitable. It's really until you have all three down to a T is when you're actually going to see profitability. Back when I was trading Forex, I was taking profitable trades, but I didn't necessarily have the psychology or the risk management in check to a T to be able to actually be profitable. And then same thing when I initially switched over to futures. I was passing funded accounts left and right, left and right, left and right. But it wasn't until I really hunkered down on my psychology and risk management to the point where I actually started seeing some real gains and being able to hold and secure those profits and move on.
Correct.
So I think, once you're at that point, if you could just understand that it is three main pillars that, conduct of profitability, then, if you aren't able to hunker down on those, good luck, genuinely.
Right. Did you have had any big loss that almost made you quit trading?
Oh yeah, plenty of times. I almost quit trading when that whole thing happened to me with Forex that same day. Like, bro, it was one of the most stressful days like I've had, genuinely, because I had been anticipating getting this funded account for months and months and months on end. I've been, staying up at that point, trading London session, trading New York, then taking like a nap for 2 hours, waking back up for New York, and then going back to sleep, waking back up and going and working a job to make money to go ahead and put towards, more funded accounts and
Right.
education and all this kind of stuff. And once that happened to me, I'm like, I'd been working so long to get that funded account. I finally got to the point where I got it. And then all that happened. And I couldn't help but to think to myself, is this like truly something that is going to work? Is this a scam? Is this something that is actually viable? Something that you can actually make money off of or not? And, it was very easy at that point for me to just pack up and move on and go back to something else or go work continue to work a regular job at that point, whatever the case may have been. But my background in terms of where I come from, who I come from, everything of that sort is people of resilience. I'm originally from Afghanistan, if you didn't know.
I don't.
And Afghanistan has been a nation that has constantly been in war, and other nations have always tried to take it over. It's quite literally in my blood to never give up and to always fight back. And so
Right.
when I think of that, and I think of like people like my dad, my grandfather, my ancestors and stuff like that, how resilient they were to whatever objections or obstacles that they endured in life, I was like, bro, it's not an option.
Right.
Like, I'm this deep into it, I'm gonna continue, I'm gonna get the job done.
Wow. Oh man.
Yeah.
That is so would you say trading is more technical or it is more mental?
It's mental, 100% more mental.
And how is
I like to
how
I like to use
what
the analogy. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
oh,
I like to use the analogy of trading is 15% technical and 85% mental. And I'm sure you can attest to this.
oh
You
definitely.
can have a strategy, you can have an edge in the market, but like I said, if you don't have that risk management and psychology, it doesn't mean nothing.
Well, yeah, correct. So when I was getting started, in my mind I was thinking, I mean, I need to learn these technical skills, which is very important. You have to know the technicals. But mentally, I wasn't really prepared. As you said, risk management, psychology, are very, very important. My risk management in the beginning wasn't that great, right? I would be in a trade and I didn't really necessarily have like a risk, um, a risk reward ratio where
Yeah.
yeah, to where I didn't even know what was my target and how much I was actually risking into a trade. So for me, every trade had to be a home run. And
Hmm.
in the beginning, I will have a trade and then I'm up like 10, 20 because I trade small cap stocks. I
Hmm.
could be up 10, 20, 30 cents. And in my mind, I was waiting for that big win. And the
Yeah.
thing you know, I'm back to break even. And instead of me just exiting,
Securing profits.
I'll be waiting and then I'm down 10 cents. And then now, instead of me just cutting the loss as quick as possible, I'll be waiting for the reversal. I'll be hoping for the reversal. Um, I had the technical to where I knew exactly where to enter the trade, but I didn't have the risk management mentally to how to either exit for profit or cut my losses quickly. So I had to work on my psychology as much as I was improving my technique was to actually to turn the corner. And the most difficult thing was not having people around me who knew how to trade or who believed in trading, or even people who were interested into trading. So how do you you mentioned you had a few friends that do trading, but within your family, do you have anybody interested in the market or had
Not at all. I mean, I have a brother of mine. He's not a blood brother, but we endured this journey together. He's a very, very good friend of mine. His
right?
name is Musa. We really went upon this journey ourselves. That same day that I was telling you when I was in the barber shop, and
Mhm.
well, my barber brought up that MT4 platform when he was floating a couple
Right.
$1,000s on gold.
Huh?
Literally that same day during this time, I was really just trying to figure out any sort of business endeavor that resonated with me, right? Since I got out of the real estate game and everything like that. I was really close, or still am very close with my good friend Musa, and I was telling him because he was on the same mental state as me. He was trying to become a loan officer at the time, but he realized that it wasn't for him, and he was trying to figure out something else. And I was like, "Look, man, like I used to try to learn how to trade and stuff like that. I'm gonna take this upon myself." And we both did it at the same time, and that is one of the biggest things I feel like with people starting out is like having that support system or that backing to really, work with you throughout the whole time. If it weren't for him, then I definitely wouldn't be where I'm at because, we always would hold each other accountable. Till this day, we still do in
Correct.
terms of making sure that, we were up for London session or New York session, or making sure our psychology was in
Mhm.
check. If one of us blew an account, being there for each other,
Oh, yeah.
if, you know, like we trade the same way too. We have the same strategy and everything like that with slight differences now, but at least for majority of the time, we had a very similar strategy. And, we would always bounce trade ideas off of each other, take the same trades and stuff like that. And, till this day too, I have a small community that I trade with of a few friends of mine and some others that I teach and whatnot that I trade with every single morning, and they do the same thing. We keep each other in check. We look for very similar setups and stuff like that. And like I was saying, I think that's one of the biggest blessings and one of the best things you can do for yourself is to surround yourself with a circle of people that are like-minded or people that are even better yet in a better position that you're in. Shout out to my guy Andrew Riyad. He's an amazing futures trader. He's been killing it, crushing it. Been
I would,
doing it for a lot longer than me. Sorry.
I would love to have him on.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do to get him on, man. I
Definitely.
think that would be a great conversation
Right,
between you
right.
two.
Mhm.
But he's someone that has been in the markets for a lot longer than me. And, sometimes we talk about trading and whatnot. He's given me a lot of amazing advice as to how to grow as a trader, how to, better leverage everything when it comes to trading, all aspects of it. So that has been an immense help for me as well.
Right, right. So we are both immigrant, right?
Yeah.
So you come from Afghanistan, I came from Congo, and we
Hmm.
were our parents. So we have these traditional ways that our parents see life. For them, it's like you have to go to school and you have to get a job, and whatever we both are doing, for them, it's not really considered as a real job because apart to yeah, I mean, I do sell real estate likely, and I do day trading. Even my own brothers, up until now, they cannot believe I can make money in the stock market. So how do you go about it with your parents? How do you
Man,
answer that?
I remember, man, that's a great question. Back, especially, I'm Muslim, and so every year we have Ramadan, and
Right,
during Ramadan, my everybody's kind of up at nighttime,
right, right,
eating and hanging out with family, stuff like that, reading the Quran, praying, all this kind of stuff. And I remember during those times when I'd be trading Forex, I'd be floating like $1,500, $2,000 in profit. I'd
right.
run into my mom's room and be like, "Look, mom, I'm floating $2,000." She'd always be like, "Oh, that's amazing," not knowing what it is or anything like that. But now it's a little bit different, because they somewhat see it, but at the same time, it doesn't make sense to them. My dad, he trades stocks every now and then, kind of swing trades and stuff
Okay,
like
okay.
that. Just looks at news, very very much so of like a news based trader. I wouldn't really consider him a trader, but he likes to hold, certain
Right.
stocks and stuff like that. So he somewhat understands it, but my mom, for the most part, she's just completely lost, has no idea what the heck this is, online money or anything like that. It's something that's very foreign to them. And majority of my family, coming from an immigrant household, like you said, they're very used to bare bones, hard work, in the sense of physical labor, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm,
Go
mhm.
out before the sun comes up, come back to the house when the sun
Right.
comes down. But you know me, I'm just in my office the entire time, just on the computer, trading in the morning, and then doing my whole brand scaling and sales operation in the evening. So they don't really understand it, but they've
Right.
become more accustomed to it as time has progressed.
Definitely. It took me a long time before my parents could understand exactly who I was and what I wanted for my life because my dad is a school addict, right? He
Yeah,
loves
same.
school. Yeah, he loves school. He has like 4 or 5 degrees. I hate school. I
Me
mean,
too.
I truly hate school. And with my dad, like ever since I was a kid, we didn't really see eye to eye because he wanted me to go to school, have a degree. But for me, I was like, I don't trust school. I don't see any way school is gonna help me become rich because that has been my goal my entire life. Then coming to America, I started with real jobs. And then one day I was talking to him. I told him, hey, I just quit my job. I want to pursue entrepreneurship full time. He understood about entrepreneurship, but then he was like, what are you really going to do?
Yeah.
Mm. Then I said, okay, I'm going to start doing e-commerce. And he was like, what's that? You should just keep your real job. I said, it's a job. He's like, you should keep your real job. And then when I got into trading, I talked to my dad. He didn't understand anything. For him, I had to get a real job. Then I talked to my brothers. My brother was here in November. One day, he woke up in the morning. He saw me trading. He saw me making $1,000 in front of him, and still told me it was a scam.
So they
So,
all say.
right. So for me, building that confidence, I had to find myself with an online community with a few guys that I don't even met. I've never met,
Mhm.
but we trained together for the past 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
just to keep myself. Because sometimes when you have that big loss, it's hard to
Oh yeah.
get it off of your head. I remember my biggest loss ever was last year. I lost 42,000 in a week.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So May May 25th or 26th, I was trading GameStop. Um I went in super big. I had no business trading with that size. So I went in with 15,000 shares and why not? And that thing dropped like a dollar. Like dropped a dollar, lost 15 grand. I went back in, I lost another 10,000. Closed up my shops. And my account was liquidated because I went below PDT. So I had to fund my account again, wire more money. I did wire more money, and on June 3rd, I was signing to my laptop, and the first thing you see, this stock LA LMFAO went in big again, and I lost 16, 15,000, 15 or 16,000. So within a week, I lost 42 grand, and I know for sure if I go around and I talk to my friends about it, they're going to feel like I'm stupid, right? If
Of
I go
course.
and I talk to my dad and my brothers, they will never understand it, ever.
Yeah.
So if I didn't have that online community of people, maybe that was but the moment I could be really like, okay, this is it, it's not
That's
working.
the saving grace.
Right, right. I quit. So I met the guy in that chat room. He told me he lost $500,000 in 2004.
Wow.
So he was basically trading for like from 1999 to 2004, and then it turned like 10,000 to almost 1.6, and then within a day he lost $500,000. So what happened to him was
Wow.
he did short the stock on Friday, and then he held it overnight, and then Friday we both know the market doesn't open on the weekend.
No.
So he woke up on Monday morning, that stock was up like 50 to 60%. And instead
Tough.
of him just calling it quit, cutting his loss, he added into his position to average down. And then
That's insane.
and that thing just like went super crazy. So he lost almost half a million, like within one day. And he told me he knew he wasn't the guy that lost half a million because he made almost 1.6. So whatever he did to make 1.6, he was just reminding himself, okay, if I can just repeat those steps from 0 to 1.6, I can do it again. One mistake doesn't
Yeah.
define me as a trader. And for me, last year,
100%.
I was like, okay, this is like 6 years of work. Um, this one week doesn't really define me as a trader, but now I don't have no more money to go back above PDT. So I have to go offshore. I have to fund another account with maybe 5,000 or 6,000 and try to build it again. And
Yeah.
then, I started to accumulate those small wins, focusing on base hits. And and in November I had like a 45K month. So I got my money back.
Got it
But
all back.
if it wasn't for that online community, I'll be done by now.
You'd be done. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think is like not that I think I know is common within any trader's journey is you're gonna have those times where you take losses. But the thing that a lot of people have, or the misconception that a lot of people have, is that losses are inevitable. You're
Yeah.
going to have losses. I
Right.
see it as a business expense into the market. You're not going to have any strategy that is 100% win rate. It's just about mitigating those losses. And in this case, not revenge trading, right?
Right. Right.
And something that's helped me personally a ton is, I sticking to my rules for one, but more importantly is sizing down. When I do take those losses and I feel like I'm about to revenge trade, if I'm not, disciplined enough to just hop off the charts, I'm gonna size down
Right.
immensely because I'm sure you can relate. There's some days where, you may take a couple losses, right? But you're like, oh man, it's just like market conditions, or it's just
Right.
I'm in my head, or whatever the case may be. I know that I'm like seeing the right setup and everything like that. So you size down, and then a lot of the times what happens is when you do size down, you take a break right before you get into your next setup, and it's a winning trade.
Right. So
Yeah,
right now I have a system, right? So what I do now is it's actually two rules when it comes to knowing whether or not to keep on going or just shutting my computer down and leaving. So the number one rule is if I am in the green, I'm making profit that day, right? And then when I start drawing down, taking losses, the minute I lose 25% of my gains, I'm shutting down. I'm leaving.
done.
I'm
Yeah,
working. Or if I'm in a red, three red trades in a row, I'm leaving. But
yeah,
now each time I'm taking a loss, I'm cutting my share size by half. So
yeah,
let's say if I was trading 4,000 shares and then I take a loss, my next trade has to be 2,000 shares.
yeah.
If I take a loss, my next trade has to be 1,000 shares. And if I take
Right.
a loss on the third one, then I'm done for the day. I'm com-
And that,
yeah, I'm completely done for the day.
that's the best way, in my opinion, to mitigate risk. I use a pretty similar system myself when it comes to that as well. About 25 to 35% of whatever my profits were for the previous day or whatever the case may be. And then kind of same thing, three trades in a row, red, done for the day.
Right.
But these things are very, very vital in terms of, especially for beginner traders, to set these ground rules for yourself. The better discipline that you can be to sticking to those rules, the faster that you're actually going to see profitability. I see a lot of videos of other traders that are extremely successful that, I've learned a lot from as well. And they say it best. It's like, everything that you need. A lot of the times, for some people that have been in the trading space for some time, and are not yet profitable, they know exactly what they need to do. It's just a matter of holding themselves accountable and disciplined enough to do that. And that comes in with, disciplining your life in all other aspects as well.
Right.
I'm sure you can relate. I've seen you've done the 75 hard challenge multiple times.
I fail
You've,
every single time.
but that's a part of the process. If you
Right.
don't fail, how are you going to move forward? You got to learn from from your losses.
Mhm.
But becoming disciplined in those aspects outside of the charts is something that is ultimately going to help you, like, be on that fast track to seeing that profitability. It wasn't until I actually started taking my religion seriously I started taking my health seriously. I started taking my relationships seriously and being disciplined in all those aspects and nutrition as well.
Right.
But it wasn't until I started being disciplined in all those aspects to the point where I actually started to see profitability and start to seeing real, momentum in my trading.
Right.
But I think that's
Yeah, that is very important because one aspect of life is about being a trader is if you are not disciplined in your real life, it's going to be very difficult for you to stick to your rules, right?
100%.
One day, I had my nephew that asked me how I could define being a day trader or day trading. And I was thinking about it. I didn't really have a clear answer. And then I just told him, hey, um, day trading is just having a set of rules when
Mhm.
in the market and just being able to follow every single rule of that strategy. That's
Exactly.
it's just as simple as that. And many people, especially beginner, they have this mistake of a trading. I was
Mhm.
thinking, okay, I can sit on the market from 6:30 when the market opens to 1 o'clock when the market closes here on the West Coast. But as I'm getting experience, I'm understanding more and more. I don't really have to do that, right? And
Mhm.
every morning when I'm trading, I have my cutoff time at 10 o'clock. And why?
Mhm.
Based on my experience, that's when I take the most losses, right? After 10 a.m., that's when most of my losses came from. So I
Right.
started to journal my trades early on and just reading my stats, studying my matrix, and understanding where I'm making the money, what time I'm making the money, what price when I'm making the money, what short size I'm making the money, and focusing basically on what's working and neglecting everything that's not working.
That doesn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if I'm losing money in the afternoon, where am I gonna sit on my computer in the afternoon? I just know I have bigger odds of losing the money.
Mhm.
And also, knowing when to walk away is very important.
Big thing.
Yeah, like
100%.
just
I've
be,
caught myself in that trap a lot in the past.
yeah, just because you take four more trades doesn't mean you're gonna turn that $2,000 loss into 1,000.
Yeah, 100%, man. And it's different for everyone. Like for myself, I used to stick to the same thing in terms of my cutoff time around 10 a.m. or whatever the case may be. But as I started journaling my trades a lot more, and really looking at the data, because at the end of the day, trading is really about data. You have your strategy, right? But you have to hold yourself accountable to be disciplined enough to execute that strategy and your rules and everything. But more importantly, it's like once you start tracking your data, you can really look back and reflect and see exactly what's working, what's not, just like how you kind of touched base on just a moment ago. But with that being said, I found that sometimes in the PM, I was seeing some good setups. I wouldn't take them. And then so I started messing around and seeing how the PM session was treating me. And specifically, for futures with NASDAQ, you can definitely find some setups, but it goes back to being disciplined enough to
Right.
knowing, okay, is today the market conditions for today going to allow me to, actually capitalize off of these setups, or is the volatility going to be down, whatever the case may be? And that's not going to come until you actually have that experience. You're tracking your data, you're journaling your trades, you're really like being very critical with it, analyzing yourself in terms of how you're performing. And really until then, I think it's definitely a very, very, very safe bet to really stick to just trading that first macro in the morning. I don't know for stocks if you guys use macro timing or anything, but with futures, that's something, especially in my strategy, relevancy is a big thing that I use within my strategy. As in, there's certain times within the market that we see certain setups presented that
Right.
follows my strategy, and so
Yeah. So I
yeah.
mean, with stocks, basically, personally, I mean, I cannot speak for everybody,
Right.
but for myself, it's just it just depends on what time of day we see the most volume, right? So, for example, we're in the US and I am on the West Coast.
Right.
Like pre-markets really start at I would say 1 a.m. here,
Hmm.
but most brokerage they don't open until 7 a.m.
Yeah.
That's when you see most people start trading. So lately, we've seen more and more volume coming in at 7 a.m. That's when
Right.
we have the most volatility. but
Mhm.
also at 6:30 when the market opens. So my strategy really, I make most of my money between 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. So
Right.
that is my window. That's where I do.
That window.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's when I do the best. Outside of that window, I just give money back, right?
Mhm.
It could be either am I gonna start trading at 7 a.m. and then just and put myself in the red. Now at 6, all I have to do is 4 a.m. here, 7 a.m. Eastern time.
Right.
So I'll find myself at 4 a.m. I will just put myself in the red and I'm gonna spend the rest of the morning trying to dig myself out of that hole. So I figured
Exactly.
if I can just stop trading at 4 a.m. and just focusing on when I actually make the most money, which is 6 a.m. to 7,
Mhm.
I'm doing best. And then after 7, what happens is I'll be green um before 7, and then after 7, I'm gonna just give it back. So what happens is when I give it back at 7 or after 7, I'm gonna get frustrated. I'm gonna be triggered. Instead of me
So
working,
revenge trading.
I'll start revenge trading. I'll start taking bigger short position. I'll be like, okay, I was up maybe $900. Now I'm break even. What if I just take 5,000 shares and then I just make 20 cents? I make it back. And the next thing you know, I lose 20 cents. Now I'm down at that like $1,000. Okay. What if I just go in with 7,500 shares and then I just make 15 cents? Now I'm break even. I'm gonna just walk away. And the next thing you know, I lose 10 cents. And now I was up 900 and then you find yourself without 2,500 in the red. The next day you wake up, you are frustrated, you want to get it back, you start making stupid mistakes. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna study my metrics. I'm gonna figure out what time of day I make the most money, what price points, and what are the criteria that comes in play when I'm making the money. So I came up with these 5 pillars of my stock selection, and the way that I'm making money is I focus only on stocks between $2 and $20.
Mhm.
I only trade a stock if it has at least 5 times relative volume, meaning I need to see at least 5 times volume based on yesterday's close.
Right.
So whatever volume we traded yesterday, or on average, that stock traded for the past few days, today I need to see at least 5 times. And also I need to see a share flow of less than $10 million. And also the stock has to be up at least 10% on a day. These are the stocks I do the best with. And anything outside of that, I'm gonna just lose money. So I just focus on those things and keep my window 6 to 7 a.m., go to the gym or I go to do my real estate thing after that.
Yeah. I mean, brother, I feel like, not I feel like, I know that, with trading, if you just simply treat it as any other business, right? In any other business, you're going to have your systems, you're going to have your metrics, you're going to have certain rules, regulations, everything like that. And if people were to stop treating it as a casino,
Oh yeah.
there would be a lot more profitable traders. A lot of people that are struggling right now with profitability would start to see that success if they
Right,
simply just stay in that sort of mind frame
right,
as if, okay, this is a legitimate business. I'm coming to this with my all. I'm going to make sure that I treat this with the utmost amount of respect to ensure that I get that return that I'm looking for. Like, obviously, and I know from being in the real estate business prior, we're not going to show up to a listing appointment in sweats or anything like that. We're going to make sure that we show up presented in the best way possible in a suit, whatever the case may be. And so the same applies to this. It's just like any other business. And when you start to have that mind frame of, okay, I'm treating this in this specific way, you're going to start to see those specific results right back.
right, right.
Yeah.
hmm So is there any favorite setup that you like trading the most? That
Yeah, so my favorite setup personally is a high time frame PD array. So either a sweep of liquidity or a high time frame imbalance that we're in right now that we're rejecting out of. And then inverse fair value gap followed with, or prior to that, we have SMT divergence. So basically, I know it's a little bit different since you trade stocks and
right, right,
whatnot, but SMT divergence is basically a difference between the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. So they technically correlate because there's a lot of stocks that are on both the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. So whenever we see a difference, meaning like NQ took a low whereas ES failed to do so, that is typically used as an indication of a market reversal or whatever the case may be. So follow that with being in, for an example, a 4 hour fair value gap or anything like that. Take the first inverse fair value gap that we have and take it to the opposing liquidity. That is by far my favorite setup that I see. Another one is something that I learned from an old mentor of mine by the name of Trader Joe. I hope he's watching this, but it's the GUI model.
Right.
It's basically a continuation model. So we basically retrace into a 5, a 15, even a 30-minute, or even an hourly fair value gap. And we inverse a fair value gap, typically a 1 minute fair value gap, back up to the draw and liquidity. And so those two are probably by far my favorite to-go models. Recently, I've been switching my strategy a little bit. I've been with the crazy volatility with Trump being in office, I'm sure
Right.
as you've seen.
Yeah.
You know, it's just crazy in terms of how big stops have to be and stuff like that. So I've been shifting down to the 15 and 30 second time frame to find those inverse fair value gaps. But it's a little bit more complicated because you can easily, those fair value gaps can easily get disrespected. But I find it a lot easier to use and have tighter stops when using the 5 and or 15 and 30 second with a similar basis to those models.
Okay. It's kind
Yeah.
of funny. Seems like the future market is spiking up, but the overall market when it comes to stocks, we've seen a lot of drops lately.
Yeah.
Like the S&P 500 has been down, and this past week we've had stocks going, well, 40, 50% just for them to do like a round trip, the up end, going
Yeah.
all the way down to break even. And it's been very tricky lately. My
Oh
favorite
yeah.
setup trading stocks is I like to trade the first pullback
Hmm.
and buying the break of higher day. So
Hmm.
basically the stock would actually spike up pre-market, and then at
Hmm.
the open, we are going to come back to that level. And then
Hmm.
instead of breaking the level, usually what happens is we are going to see a dip, which is the first pullback uh,
Yeah.
underneath most likely the high of day, and then surging back up, breaking that level. The reason why I like that setup is because number one, most of people that shorted that stock pre-market or even at the open, they would have the stop at
Right at that high.
yeah, rather high. And
Yeah.
then yeah, we when we are approaching that level and breaking it, they will start covering. And what happens is when they cover, actually they have to buy back the position. And then you ha also have these bulls buying that same stock, causing a short squeeze. And I'm buying right into the break and selling on the other side and taking my profit. It's very quick, in and out. You go in, you green, you're getting out.
You're more of a scalper, yeah?
Yes, I love scalping. On average, I don't hold the stock for more than a minute.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. I'm.
some of my trades are like 5 seconds.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm in trades. I've been in trades for literally like 2 hours before when volatility was low. But these days with Trump in office and stuff, I
I would
would say
lose
my average. Sorry.
I would lose patience. 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. No. It takes a lot to be in it. I don't typically do that, but typically, I'm only in trades for a couple of minutes. Let me
My
see,
strategy,
actually.
yeah, like my strategy actually is I will sit on my computer for longer.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll be sitting on my computer like from 4 a.m. to 6:30 when the market opens, but I don't take any trades. I just watch the chart, right? Because
Mhm.
trading is 90% waiting and then
Mhm.
10% execution. So I'll be
Yeah.
watching the price action, studying the charts, reading level two, um, actually defining my resistance, support levels, drawing my lines on my charts. And then when the market opens, I know exactly where to get in, where to get out. So
Yep.
I'll be just sitting and waiting for my entry. And then
Yeah.
when it's time for me to enter my trade, it's usually quick because I'm a scalper, right? When I'm
Mhm.
getting in, it's either it's breaking out or it's failing. Either way,
Right.
I'm out. So
Yeah.
if it's breaking out, I'm sitting on the other side. If it's failing, then I take the loss. I'm out. So
Yeah.
I don't really hold.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I mean, my average trade duration I just looked is about 5, 6 minutes. So
Yeah,
I'm not necessarily a scalper, but I'm in there for a couple of minutes usually.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I try not to stick too long because the stocks that we trade are kind of tricky. So some people will call them penny stocks, and
Mhm.
these stocks are easily manipulated, right? So I don't really wanna expose myself to bigger risk. So I tend to go in, get my profit or take my
Get
loss
out.
and get out.
Yeah, yeah. No, 100%, man. But it's crazy to see the difference between like stocks and someone that trades the Nasdaq. Don't get me wrong, there definitely are scalpers that trade the Nasdaq as well, but I would say it's a little less common just because of maybe volatility and also size as well.
I mean,
Majority of the time.
yeah, even within these instruments, small caps, the strategy is actually different, right? Um, I know
Hmm.
guys, I know guys who trade breaking news. They are going to wake up at 7 New York time, which is 4 a.m. here, and then they wait for the stock to, I mean, for companies to release news. They are going
Hmm.
to buy news when the news is released and hold until the open, right?
Right,
They have that risk tolerance. They have
right.
patience. They have the risk tolerance. But for me, I don't have the patience. I can't. I mean, I just cannot. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I have to take my profit or take my loss and bail out.
No, 100%, man. Yeah. It's nice seeing like the difference though, in terms of strategy and everything like that. And someone that comes from a scalping background versus someone that maybe, holds a little bit longer. And even some people that swing.
Right, right.
I could never do swing trading. That would
No, no,
just
no, no.
boost my anxiety.
I don't do that. So before we wrap it up, what would you tell someone that interested into the I know we mentioned before
Yeah.
they have to be educated and why not? What are your best advice and tips for people getting started into trading?
Do your research. Genuinely just do your research and stick to one strategy. If you're going to find a mentor, stick to that one mentor. Make sure, obviously, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, find someone that you can trust that's actually legitimate, that resonates with you, and just simply stick with them because they're doing something that you want to do that you're not in that position to do so quite yet. So they have to know some stuff that you don't know. And even though you may not stick with that mentor long term, whatever the case may be, you'll build yourself a good foundational base to build on top of that. And you'll actually cut a lot of the losses, a lot of the wasted time, a lot of freaking mental distress
Right.
if you just simply stick with one thing. If it works, stick with it. That's probably the best advice that I can give to someone.
Okay. So and where could people find you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Instagram. I don't really like do any sort of one-on-one mentorship or anything. I may look into it in the future as
Good, good.
my trading progresses and stuff like that. But you can find me on Instagram at Jaleel Wardak. I'm sure you could tag it or whatever you would like to
I'm
do.
gonna like this information down below so that
Yeah.
people, if they have any question or whatever, they can reach out.
I'll also send you over. I do a free Discord. I try to teach some people, like friends and,
Okay.
friends of friends or whatever the case may be. I do some sessions like, a few times a week on teaching people how to trade as well, completely
Oh,
for
definitely.
free. So
Definitely.
if anyone is interested in that, I'll send you over the link to that so you
Okay.
can
Yeah,
include it.
I'm also
And you got to join it up too. I know you don't trade futures, but if, you know,
I will check it out. I will check it out.
yeah, 100%, 100%, man.
Well, thank you so much, brother, for coming in. It's always a pleasure, and
Thank you for having me, bro.
I'm really honored to have you, and we are going to keep in
Honored
touch.
to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, look forward to it. We got to do it hopefully a few months from now or maybe a year from now and kind of see
Okay.
where each other are at.
Yeah, definitely.